That one goes to the camera. So you just need to, can you get a pocket or anything?
No.
No?
No.
All right. All right, so hopefully tonight I'm going to be asking the questions that you're thinking. I'm going to go through the story, and at the end we open up for a bit of Q&A. And yeah, there's a couple of beanbags up here, guys, if you want to sit down. These are the best spots in the whole
really
house.
comfy.
No.
Yeah.
So Diana, thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being part of this hashtag 40forward for us.
My pleasure.
Tonight I'm going to take it back a bit I'm going to start with your background. What was your background?
Mm-hmm.
What was your education? Were there any businesses before Fernwood Fitness?
Yeah.
I always like to hear about failures and what you learned from those failures. And all right, that's enough. I'll start with that. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a lot of questions. Well, I didn't start Fernwood when I left school, or even never really considered going into business when I left school. Back when 100 years ago, when I was at school, when girls left school, they got a job, generally as a nurse or a teacher or in a shop, and their expectation was that they'd get married, have children, and that was the life of a girl or a woman back then. And so I went to a boarding school. When I left school, I worked at a television station. That was the job that I got, which was fantastic because television was only new in Australia back then. Nobody knew what they were doing. It was very fascinating, but nothing to do with my life now. But that was quite an amazing time for me. And I got married, had children, went home and was a stay-at-home mum. So that's my education, my life up until then. And I was quite happy being at home, being a mum with 2 kids and doing what mums did, you know, having coffee and chatting with their friends, going out. Many years later, when my children were teenagers, a friend rang me up one day and said, would I like to go and join a gym with them? Gyms were just something that were coming into the marketplace back then. So I did join the gym. And
we're in Bendigo.
In Bendigo, sorry, yes, Bendigo. And when I went in, I thought, oh, I don't know about this. This isn't for me. This was a very smelly, blokey.
Can I ask you, because like when I told my mum, you know, I'm going to have Fernwood Fitness tonight, she was like, oh, I love that gym because I'm sick of all the perverts.
Yeah.
Was that really like kind of the problem that was enough to kind of start this?
I think, well, when I walked in, everybody was in there was male, and they all checked me out and my friend. But anyway, there was a good salesman there, and he sold us a gym membership, and so I started going to the gym. My friend, she bought a membership as well, but she never went, and that's pretty common. But I got really into it. I became really enthusiastic. I've never worked out with weights before, and women never did. Women always did different things. The blokes worked out in weights, but this was a very much a weights kind of gym. And I was so impressed with the change, that physical change in myself, from my metabolism improved, my shape changed. I was feeling fabulous and trim, taut and terrific, and thought, why aren't more women doing this? And I'd noticed a lot of women would go to the gym and join up, and they never came back. And so one thing led to another, and that was the reason why I started Fernwood, because I felt there was a need for a place for women to go to where they didn't feel as though they were being checked out, where they could get some serious weight training, where they could really make a difference to themselves but have fun in an environment that they found comfortable. And so that basically was the reason I started.
I guess that's the word, right? It's like environment. It was really just to create something that was you felt comfortable in. Yeah. Yeah, and you could do all this, you know, all the stuff that wasn't the weight training, I guess, as well.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But there's more than that. Women like nice things. They like clean showers and hair dryers. That's right. You know, there's it's just different what a woman appreciates. Actually, most of our members would be happy to go to the gym and no equipment there at all. They're not really keen on the equipment, but they like the environment and it's nice. But they do work out seriously. So, you know, once you get an environment like that where they enjoy, they keep coming, they stay for longer, and so hopefully get better results. But at that stage, I never really considered it to be a business. It wasn't, oh, I'm going to start this business. It was more something that I loved doing, and I thought other women would love to do it. It wasn't in a great big centre of town building. It was in the back streets of Bendigo. And
Can you talk about that, like the process that you went through to? Was it just some, you know, had some money you had saved up? Or
yeah, well, no money really. It was basically an abandoned schoolroom, which we just painted up, put some second-hand gym equipment in it that would paint it up and look beautiful, painted it all out, put flowers around, and it was all about the look, you know. Yep. And so it wasn't a big, you know, now it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to set up one of our gyms, but back then it was probably about 20,000. It was not much. For the marketing launch, I just wrote to all the hairdressers in Bendigo and told them that we were opening this women's gym, and that did the trick. We had women coming in to check us out. You know, it was a great word-of-mouth way of advertising because hairdressers like to have to talk about something. So,
That's brilliant,
yeah. So it didn't cost very much at all. And very soon we started having all these women coming in, joining up, and it wasn't very long until we...
You knew you wanted something pretty...
Yeah.
Pretty
well, the first thing we knew that the little room that we had was obviously not big enough. So we then rented a proper room, premises in the centre of Bendigo. And then, like, we had serious rent to pay, and it became more of a business. And once I got into the centre of Bendigo, then I realised that this was something that I could pursue because it was very, very popular, was doing well. So it was probably about 3 years we kept running it that way until the idea of expansion came up.
Whose idea? Your own?
Well, actually, it was this chap from America who was talking at a conference in Sydney, which I was at, and he said that the Australian fitness industry would become inundated by chains from overseas. And I don't know why. I thought they'd all come to Bendigo and put me out of business. They didn't, but I just thought, okay, if there's going to be all these chains coming to Bendigo or coming into Australia, then what's going to happen? Well, that's right. Well, you know, what's going to happen to my business? Maybe I should think about that.
And so you were financing everything by yourself at this point?
Yeah. The business was was back then, well, still is, a cash positive business because people pay for their memberships, or they did back then up front. They didn't have the direct debits they do now. And so you'd have money in, which was why a lot of gyms went broke back then, because the owners would go and buy a car or something, spend the money instead of keeping it to service the customers. So there was quite a lot of gyms going broke back then. And when I decided to expand, that was when I started looking for finance.
Was it also like a threshold where you're like, members are getting a bit tight in here as well? Did that come into play?
What do you mean?
Like it's going to take me 10 minutes to get on that pec deck?
Yeah, no, I was only expanding in other cities.
No, I mean, like, was Bendigo getting like to saturation, like you had too many members?
Never have too many members.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No, not really. I mean, the more the merrier, and it's all, you know, they come and they go, you know, they come and...
I was only asking because I was kind of curious as to whether it was like, all right, once it hits, 500 members, or I don't know what that threshold was, now we open a new location.
Yeah. But then it'd have to be near where they live, so it'd have to be up the road a bit, you know? Yeah. It doesn't really work that way because they come in, they do classes, they leave, so it's open for, well, now we're open for 24 hours, but it's open a lot of hours, so we've never actually, we have busy times when it gets really full, but then there's other times when it's not so full. So that's not really the reason for expansion.
It's interesting because that's exactly how I thought it. Played it in my mind. I was like, so anyway, these American guys kind of scared you a little bit enough for you to start thinking seriously about your business.
Yeah, it was probably about then that I started to look at the business as a business and started to get serious about training staff, marketing, changing the logo, getting a good design, you know. Always had the name Fernwood, but the colours were not very, they were apricot and grey, because that was the colours back in the 80s. And the logo was something I designed myself, which is embarrassing now, but anyway. It was very unprofessional looking. So we got a designer from Melbourne to come and, you know, professionalise the whole thing, and got some staff trainers in there to train the staff and set it up as a much more professional show. When I looked at the ways of expanding, I thought, how am I going to run a business in another city when I have enough trouble managing staff in my own business, you know? And I was reading about franchising, and that's when the idea came up. It's perfect for me because I could get owners buying the franchise. They would run the business. They'd be like mini-me's, having their staff and running the business like with the owner mentality. And that was a really good decision. I had a franchise consultant come and tell me all about franchising and teach me what there was to know about franchising, which was a lot. And it was the first thing he said, how much money have you got? And I said $50,000. He said, well, that's what his fee was.
Yeah, perfect.
Damn. Oh, my money just gone like that. But anyway, it was money well spent. He was actually, he gave a lot of advice that if I hadn't had that advice, we probably wouldn't have been, we would have been in trouble because with
Local guy?
No, Sydney.
Oh, Sydney.
Yeah, but because franchising is a very litigious business to be in. If businesses don't go well, the franchisees blame the franchisor, and you know, come looking for their money back if it doesn't work. So
how did that? Can you go through like that rollout? All right, pay this guy the 50 grand.
Yeah. So then I had to go and get some money from the bank.
Yeah.
I thought.
That's a lot of money back then.
No, I had that money, but he got that, and then I needed more money.
Yes. All right.
But raising money was not an option. I didn't have enough to convince the banks that they'd be able to lend me the money. So
a lot of us have that same problem.
Yeah,
Still.
They never saw the vision that I tried to explain to them, and they just saw me as an inexperienced woman with no business experience in an industry which gyms go broke every second day, in franchising, which had a bad reputation as well. From a country town, there was not a lot going for me really, so when I look back now, I can understand that I probably didn't have enough to convince them. But I kept badgering away, and eventually I got a bank to lend some money, and that sort of got me going really, and started the franchising path.
And what was involved in marketing, getting these, you know, what was the first one outside of Bendigo?
Right. Well, my husband was a friend of the editor of the Bendigo Advertiser, and this franchise consultant said, look, you need to get it out there, get the word out there, and it'll happen. So I went to this guy and I explained to him that I was going to be expanding Fernwood, and it was going to be all around Australia. We're going to have 150 clubs in 5 years. And that didn't happen, but I sold a really good story. The next day it was all over the front page of the paper with my photo, and this huge success story. People keep coming up and congratulating me, and I hadn't done anything really. All I'd done was told a story. I was a good storyteller. And but what I did was made myself accountable to actually everybody that knew me, and in Bendigo it's not a big place, so you know, everybody knows everybody. So I told everybody I know what I'm doing, and you know, I had to actually make it happen. Fortunately, one of the members of the Bendigo gym came up and said, I'd like to do this. So that was where our first franchisee came from, and she opened up one in Ballarat.
All right.
Yeah.
So still rural Victoria.
Well, that was the strategy. Not that we had a lot of strategy, but that was the strategy, to open up one nearby to see if we could replicate what we did.
And still, like, you'd be able to go over and check on it.
Yeah. She wasn't the ideal franchisee though. She was I suppose I just needed a franchisee. I needed to get it started, and I would probably not have selected her as a franchisee. Now she actually she wasn't cut out for it. So
You know this is on camera.
that's all right. Look, she knows that. She's a life member of our Bendigo club. She's still a good friend.
I only give
But yeah, it probably wasn't right for her. But you know,
it worked.
It worked, and you know, you all know you do what you have to do to get the show on the road, don't you? When you're starting a business, and you have to do things that probably, when you look back and you think, well, I probably shouldn't have done that, but I had no choice. You know, there's been a lot of time, especially after starting franchising and starting expanding. You know, once you've got one franchisee, then they think you're McDonald's. They've bought into a franchise. Then they don't think you're just like one little company. And so they're expecting television advertising, they're expecting a training and support and assistance, and so it becomes a lot bigger business very quickly. So the stress is to get more franchisees and get as many clubs open as we could really quickly, so that we would be able to have the money coming in from royalties to be able to be the franchisor that our franchisee expected. I mean, of course, creates another big problem, because expanding too quickly, well, everybody knows what happens when you expand too quickly.
Well, I talked to this, you know, when I was emailing out, you know, the audience here, and I said, you know, if you want to come and hear how, there's a lot of tech guys here tonight too, about, I call it scalability, and like it doesn't matter what the business is, they've got to look at this, and I thought that was a brilliant example of you trying to scale a business that's pretty much capital intensive, and how you did that and what those growing pains were, and then kind of relate it to what these guys are doing with their own tech business, or, you know, going into different markets. Yeah,
well, I mean, the growing pains in a business can be very painful. You don't get a lot of sleep, and worry a lot. You know, I don't know how many times people think, oh, you know, you're really successful, you've grown really quickly, and you know, that's amazing. But you know, I can't count the times I lay awake at night looking at the ceiling, thinking, where am I going to get the money from to pay the wages, and use my credit card to buy a gym membership, so I put some money in the bank so the wages would go through. Anyway, American Express rang me and said, you can't do that. So I had to stop that, but it worked for a while.
So Ballarat comes on.
Yeah.
What's the next one? And then it sounded like,
well, then,
I imagine this was the busiest time you've had in your life.
Absolutely. And you know, a few years back I was home with the kids, you know, doing the washing and the ironing. And then all of a sudden I wasn't home at all. I was at work. But I was really loving every minute of it. I was so totally engrossed with it, and fascinated with it, and loved learning and growing and making the business better and improving my own skills. And, you know, it was very enjoyable, even though it was painful. But to expand quickly, that was essential. We went to an exhibition, a franchising exhibition in Melbourne, and I actually got an article in the Herald Sun, and that sort of set the thing going there. We had lots of people wanting to buy a franchise, and in the second year of franchising, we opened 14 clubs in 1 year. I know, it was ridiculous, really, when I look back and think, how on earth, you know, we did that. But then, of course,
was there anyone in the US that kind of went this angle? Were you like pioneers in
the there was another chain but not like us. They were just like a bit like the Curbs are now. You know, they're like the little room with the equipment in the middle, and people go round in the circle, but not a full service gym like we had. And I didn't know about them at the time. They ended up going broke, but I believe the guy who owned that then went on and opened up Curves, which became a big success around the world. But the same model. But no, there was no one else that was doing anything we were doing. And it's funny because, you know, I opened up this women's gym and sold the first franchise, and then the second and the third and the fourth, and then we had to open in Altona. There was a mixed gym in the Altona shopping centre, and the shopping centre manager said, came to us and said, would we like to take over the premises? There was a mixed gym there and it wasn't doing well and they weren't paying the rent. And we said, yep, we'll take it over, because finding sites was always tricky. So we went in, changed all the colours, put all our things in over the weekend, and had a franchisee from nearby, so she took it over. I was in Brisbane the next day and I got a phone call from one of the staff saying, all hell's broken loose in Altona. We've got television cameras and police and men with pickets and placards. And what had happened was that the shopping centre, we'd had an arrangement with the shopping centre that they would accommodate all the male members of this mixed gym into nearby gyms around the Altona area, but they forgot or something. So these guys turned up at the gym and they couldn't get in because it was a women's only gym. And so they took us to Equal Opportunities Commission. And we...
It's always got to be one pain in the ass, I guess.
Yeah, well, there was a few of them actually.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, we managed to... I had an exemption before then, but they took us to the commission and challenged us, and so we got a QC to defend us, and we were okay. But even though it was a very traumatic time, it was also a wonderful opportunity because it was PR all around the country, and everybody knew all of a sudden that Fernwood was a women's gym instead of a nursery. So, yeah. So, yeah, it was, you know, every disaster can be an opportunity if you look at it the right way.
This was like what? You said this is like third, fourth franchise in.
Yeah.
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 Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. It was great. But then we had franchise inquiries from other states, and that was probably the wrong thing to do, to go and expand in Queensland and Adelaide and Sydney and Brisbane, you know, when we were still getting started. We're all over the place.
Was there any of those you thought, looking back, you go, I shouldn't have gone there?
Yeah, well, that's right. But the issue I had then, of course, because franchising, the reason why it works, or why anything that a brand works, is because everybody is compliant and they all follow the same systems and processes. But because we were opening so many businesses at once, we didn't really have time to be looking to see what people were doing. So they were changing the rules, you know, making it up as they were going along. So down the track, it took quite a lot of effort to bring them back into being compliant again.
How did it look internally in terms of your own staff and stuff, growing internally to manage that kind of thing?
Well, we never ever had enough. I mean, now we've got a fabulous amount of people and they're all very talented, but back then, you know, we didn't have the money, I suppose, to pay the amount of the people that you need to pay to get the job done, you know. And of course also, we were still in Bendigo at that stage. The office was in Bendigo, and, you know, probably don't have the same calibre of people applying for jobs as you do in Melbourne. So we moved our office to Melbourne. And I think, you know, once you start to hire people to run your business or help you run your business, that's the key, getting the right people and paying the right amount of money and getting the good people rather than perhaps the people you can afford. And it's a catch-22, isn't it? You don't have the money, and you don't have the money, you can't get the people. You haven't got the people, and you'll never get the money. So, but you know, there's some gems out there who are not expensive, but they've got the right attitude, they've got that ownership mentality. So it's not always about the money, it's also about the way you treat them. And
a lot of these guys, like say, in the tech world, would like compensate them. You know, they're getting that kind of startup wage, but they get a little bit of equity.
No, we never did that. It was not something that really came up. And you know, as we've gone on, the people that I employed back then are not the people I would employ now. You know, the bar raises as you get better and become more advanced. Then the people that you employ also become higher skilled. So
we've gone one in Ballarat. We've gone 15 the second year. Tell me the next key milestone. When was it when you kind of sat in the office and said, "Well, I've built something really amazing here"?
To be quite honest, I was so busy building something that I never really stopped to have a look. And I think people do that when they're in business. You're so busy with your head down and your tail up and you're working away that you don't realise how far you've come. I think when we started to make good money, I think, was probably, that was nice, it was comfortable, you know, to be able to actually see some good profits, that we didn't have to have everybody on payment plans, and, you know, you could pay your rents and all your bills when they fell due, and there was money there that you could build. Building a brand is all about, like I sold the story to the man at the Bendigo Advertiser, it's about telling a story and selling a dream, and so you have to shoot beyond your weight, really, a little bit, you know, fight beyond your weight.
Otherwise you're not going to get the cover of the Bendigo Advertiser.
No, that's right. You sell your dream, and you sell the big success story, even though you're like the duck on the pond, you know, and you're really, really struggling to make ends meet, but you're a big success story.
How many years of struggle did it take?
I'd say 5.
Yeah.
Probably 5. I mean, yeah, maybe 4 or 5 years of pain. And then, of course, every dollar that you make then becomes very precious.
Yep.
But, you know, the cash is king. If you don't have cash, you can go out of business very quickly. And, you know, so it's just, we were very, I suppose, fortunate, or I guess we did the right thing by managing our cash and making sure that we always managed to have a cash flow. But things happen when you're naive and you start a government business and you believe people that you shouldn't have believed. And, you know, there was one incident when we bought 10 computers from this guy, and he said, well, he had to get the money before he delivered the computers, and we'd leased them through the bank. And the bank said, no, you've got to deliver them first. Anyway, the bank ended up giving the money to the guy. He didn't give us the computers, so we ended up having to pay the bank for all these computers that we never got. Things like that happen, you know, it wasn't a lot of money. It was only 10 computers, but it was like
big deal.
Life and death.
Can I ask, because I know that, you know, 4 or 5 years of struggle, was there a point, because I like hearing this, because, you know, we all go through this as we grow our own businesses, where you're like, at a point where you're like thinking about quitting, and what's your advice to people that are at that point, and what kept you, you know, eyes on the prize kind of thing?
I don't know that I've ever really thought about quitting during those times. It never was it never occurred to me to stop. It just occurred to me to find a solution, you know, to find a way. There's always a way. It doesn't matter how desperate it is. There's always a way. As long as I was drawing breath, there was a solution, and there always was, you know. And I lived by the philosophy that 98% of the things you worry about never happen. So I think, okay, whatever I was worrying about 2 days ago, I can't even remember what that was, you know. We got through that. And so I'm not the kind of person, I suppose, that dwells on the negatives. I you know, tend to find a solution. Solutions are not always the right solutions, but they're a solution that you work on, and then you duck and weave till you get where you need to go.
So quitting just wasn't an option?
No, I can't say honestly that I've ever thought about quitting.
And so now let's fast forward to right now.
Yeah.
Something like 70.
Yeah, it wasn't all painful.
No.
Wasn't in 25 years of pain.
No, I'm just trying to. Yeah, no, good. Well, what was another exciting point before I come to like now? What was something that was like, was it, you know, stepping into a gym and on the Gold Coast or something, and going, you know, I got the name on the door?
No, look, I guess I'm not really one to say, you know, look what I've done. It's happened, and I guess when I was given the Telstra Businesswoman Award in 1995, I think that was probably the first time I actually sat back and thought, wow, actually I have achieved something here. This is something, you know, as a woman, the women in the audience probably relate to the fact that we don't pat ourselves on the back. We tend to give everybody else credit for what we do, and so I've constantly just been working on loving my business and driving it and making it better and improving my business skills, employing people to have around me that, you know, can take the business where it needs to go, and focused on that rather than sit back and say, look what I've done.
Yeah, and can I ask, because you know, I get a lot of people on stage here and they talk about work-life balance. Yeah, and it pretty much being non-existent. So yeah. I'm guessing that you have a very supportive husband at home and
I
family?
do, yes. I said to my daughter actually not so long ago, you know, you never ever complained when I was never home all of a sudden. She said, well, you were never here to hear us. So, my husband has been exceptionally supportive. You couldn't possibly do this if you had a problem husband or wife who was giving you a hard time about the amount of hours you put in. But he probably enjoyed me not being there, actually. Never thought about it that way. But he took over the task of being the cook, and which he enjoys. And
But there must have been times where it's like, oh, we're going to put the house on to get these next 15 franchises, or we're going to put, you know, that kind of like, where it is total support behind.
Yeah, financial support. Not really. I've been always never sort of...
Okay.
Yeah, I've always managed to get through and build a business without actually having to put the family house up.
All
so that I've just been very fortunate to do it that way.
Now, you mentioned the Telstra Award. Now,
Yeah.
I know you've also been inducted to the couple of Hall of Fame.
Yeah, 4 actually.
4.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Tell me about that.
Oh, well, what's to say, really?
What were they? What was that? You know, that's pretty exciting. What does that call look like? What does that call look like?
That hall, yes. Well, they give you a big picture, you know, in a frame. Oh, look, I'm not one for patting myself on the back and saying, look at me. Yeah, it's very nice. It's very, very humbling to be included in such things like the Fitness Industry Hall of Fame and the Franchising Hall of Fame and Businesswomen's Hall of Fame. And it's just, it's very nice. And I think a lot of it is because, well, obviously the Telstra Businesswomen and the Australian Businesswomen, they're focus on women, female entrepreneurs, and so there's not so many, so it's easy to get an award, you know.
What do you credit like a lot to? Like a lot of guys like, I couldn't have done it without my team. Is there some guys, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't do this by myself. That without the people around me, I couldn't possibly have achieved anything. All of the people who've worked for me throughout the years, it's been, you know, they've been incredibly loyal and incredibly focused on my vision, which has become their vision. They've been... I'm very fortunate to have a company that's got a lovely feel about it, that's got a lot of good values, and the culture is really good. So, and as long as I hire the people that are aligned with all of that, the rest of it's easy. The problem is sometimes you get somebody in who isn't aligned with that, but they don't generally stay long. I mean, it's just getting the people who all work together happily and harmoniously and take ownership of their role and ownership of everyone else's role and work as a team together to get the job done, rather than being self-centred or, you know, professional jealousy and all that sort of thing.
Because you touched on it, I just want to ask, was it important to try and instill that kind of culture early on? Like,
I think it happened, it's like Fernwood has this amazing environment, and that's created by the members. And I think the culture's created not by me, it's created by all of the people within that environment. So I can't really take credit for it. I can take credit for perhaps maintaining it and making sure that it doesn't get destroyed by having the wrong people in the environment, but it's really created by all of the people.
Well, let's fast forward now to today.
Yep.
You're looking at something like, I think it was like 70 plus gyms, 80,000 members.
Yeah.
Yep. What does Fernwood look like now in Melbourne? What does it offer? And like I've seen, you've got some amazing partnerships.
Yeah.
What's going on with Fernwood right now?
Right now?
What's the plans for the future?
Oh, well, we've got, it's strange for a gym, I suppose, to have so many IT people working in it, where we've got a lot of developers, front end, back end. We're building a platform which all our members will have an online membership, as well as a you know, in-club membership. So they will have, you know, all of their food plans and their exercises and everything for them online. So that's a big investment. We've been working on that for the last 2 years, and that's launching next month.
Yep. No one's got that, right?
No one. known, I don't believe. Yeah, so this is a first, and so not only will all of our members have that ability to have all of the information that they need, their education, there's also a social timeline where they can communicate with each other, and so not only that, but there'll be people who are not members of Fernwood also can belong. They live in Wagga or somewhere where we don't have a gym, then they can become a member too. So that's a pretty exciting thing for us, and it's a huge investment, but I believe it's the future. And if you're not online, then I think bricks and mortar gyms can only go so far.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing a lot more than just being online there.
Oh well, yeah, it's not just a website. It's actually, there's videos on it for, instructions and keeping people motivated and all that. So.
And when are we going global next? What's the plan?
Well, not global from bricks and mortar, but probably global for their online presence. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Can't talk about that too much, or?
Yeah. Well,
no.
It's in the future.
All right. So now talking about today, and I promised I'd talk to. We've got Laura here, a special guest of ours here today from Scale Investors has come along. Now things are a little bit more comfortable, you're making a little bit of money.
Yep.
You're actually an investor now yourself?
I am.
Yep.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
I will, yes.
Role
with Scale.
Yeah, with Scale.
Well, Scale is an organisation that's been formed in Melbourne only in the last 12 months, I suppose, Laura. Basically it's an organisation that attracts investors such as myself who want to invest in startup companies and other small businesses like I was in 25 years ago, who can't get finance through a bank for various reasons, but who are needing some angels to come along and invest in them. So I joined Scale as one of the initial, actually the inaugural angel, number one, and so. It's a wonderful organisation that can, 99% of the angels are women, right? And the purpose of it is to invest in female entrepreneurs, and I guess it's pretty much. We have one company that two, sorry, because I don't even know what's going on. We have two companies that we've invested in so far, and
what is it like sitting on the other side now, where you're like, critiquing people,
feeling their pain?
Yeah, or feeling people, like they're coming to you now. And
well, I suppose I can see through a few cracks because I've been there. I know what desperation for money can be like, but you can also feel for the person, and it's. An entrepreneur doesn't necessarily have to have the MBA or the academic degree. They have to have the passion and the belief and the intelligence and the commercial acumen to be able to make it work. So it's as much about investing in the person as it is about what the product is. So basically, you look at whatever it is that the business is, but then you also really looking at the person that's driving it, because that's where it all comes from.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm going to open it up for a few questions if you don't mind. And anyone got some questions here? Yep.
Hi, thank you, Diane, for a lovely speech, and great to hear about your story, as I'm sure everyone would concur. You didn't do any marketing background. You don't have a marketing background yourself?
I don't have no, but I think I'm fairly marketing savvy. I do have an eye for especially free marketing, and also I employ a lot of marketers now. But I think the secret to marketing is spotting an opportunity, and there's one around every corner if you look. So no, I'm not a marketer. I don't have a marketing degree, but like I said before, it's not always that you learn out of a book. It's having that, being savvy enough to notice an opportunity, and especially when you're a startup business, a lot of it's just guerrilla marketing anyway. So you're not going to be throwing thousands of dollars at television or something.
Apart from your great branding, you kind of glossed over it a little bit at the start, but I think was the key to your growth was going to hairdressers, I think you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a bit more about that? Because a lot of people struggle just to find that one
Yeah, well, I think you just have to have a think about, okay, how do I get the word, if I've got no money and I've got to get the word out there, how do I do that? To me, it was a bit of a no-brainer. It's just hairdressers talk and they've all got all of the women coming to them, and how expensive is it to, get all the names and addresses of hairdressers and send them an invitation?
Did you give them like a free membership?
No, I sent some guest passes, for them to come to our grand opening.
Yeah, that's the good point, because it's like a little growth hack that...
Yeah, but I mean, every business would, whatever your consumer is, whether it's another business or whether it's a consumer, there's something that they do as a way that you can reach them. So in my case, it was women go to the hairdressers all the time. So yeah.
So,
Hi. In the early days of setting up your business, how much of what you did was reactive versus how much was planned out?
Yeah.
Can you just restate the questions for them?
Yes, so the question was, of all of the decisions and things that I did in the early days, how much of it was reactive and how much of it was planned out? I'm not much of a one for business plans, I never have been. I'm more of a one for implementing a plan. Sitting down, writing a plan and spending hours and hours with spreadsheets, this doesn't really do the trick. You've actually got to do something tangible to make it happen. I guess I would have to say reactive more so than planned, but you learn your lesson by being reactive. So it's sort of, I don't know what the word for it is, but it's a very cautionary reactive way of dealing with it. You say, this is what I will do now. I'm going to spend the next 48 hours thinking about it, and then I'll do it. But
well, I saw it's a lot of guys, they spend a lot of time on their business plan that sits in the drawer for the next 5 years.
No one looks at it.
No.
I don't think, not writing the plan, it's implementing the plan that makes it work.
Yep.
You said you wouldn't employ a lot of the people then, now. Now, would you have employed you then?
Sorry?
Would you employ you then?
Me?
Now?
Then? No. Absolutely not. No,
How does that
but I would have said I'm willing to learn.
How does that marry with your scale investing?
Yeah, well, but I would have recognised those people don't necessarily have to be the most brilliant business people, but they have to have the commercial acumen comes through, their business savvy comes through,
And now you've gone through all the hard yards and done all the, you can see straight through the holes in these people's business plans.
A bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, in the back there. Yep. Go ahead. Yep.
I'll stand up so you can see.
Hi.
Thanks for your talk. You touched on a couple of things at the end around your business moving into an online environment. I just had a couple of questions about that, if I can.
Yeah.
I wondered what process you go through around innovation in your business, given it's such a competitive industry now. And
Yeah.
It's pretty saturated with gyms and online programs. And my second question is, did you go the online route because it's a bit of a, if you can't beat them, join them sort of thing, or do you genuinely believe in the power of being able to deliver effective health and fitness for people in an online environment?
Yeah, okay. Number one, the competitors. I'm very mindful of competitors, but they don't frighten me a great deal. I've been around a while and I've seen them come and I've seen them go, and my philosophy is just look at what they do and just be better at what you do and don't try to do what they do. There's an awful lot. It is a saturated market at the moment, but fortunately no one does what we do, and if they did, they wouldn't do it as well. So,
well, it sounds like it's quite innovative in the fact that you're doing like this almost fitness social network for your members, and they got the diet plans and all this stuff. They're probably going to a third-party site for.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah. But the other part of your question regarding why did we go online is that you can't beat them, join it. No, not really. One of my biggest concerns has been forever. Members come and they join up, but they don't get the care. No matter what we do, they get nervous about coming back. They end up on the treadmill and being bored, and we can't engage them. You've got staff they're wonderful staff, but they still can't do it. And this is a way that our members can actually buy a membership. They go home. They've got their first 28 days all planned out for them, what they have to eat, what exercises they have to do. They get online on the social community, and so it's more about the members' experience, and so how they can become a really sold on the idea and change their habits of going from a couch potato to an exercise person in a non-threatening way. So it's more about making the member experience even better. Yeah.
Further to the question, or I think you kind of touched on it anyway, is that innovation coming from in-house with your internal team, or is like, some agencies or whatever come and pitching you some of these concepts?
No, that's my plan. I've always wanted to do this, and I saw we had a bit of surplus cash left over, and you need a fair bit of surplus cash because it's like it cost a fair bit of money to build this. Last year, a couple of years ago, so started the process going and started hiring. We did hire a company to start us off here, which they were good. We took the agile approach to the development, and basically we've been building it for 18 months now, and it's ready to launch. But we now employ quite a lot of developers and testers and copywriters and all the people that you need to do this. But it's been a passion of mine since online happened to do this.
Can I ask, so this is really kind of touching on the startup side of things, which I guess resonates with a lot of these guys. So was there feedback that was kind of coming back to change the product as you went as well? Yeah,
I think so. As we were developing it, we were seeing, because what we've actually developed is a platform that we can build programs with. So it's our first program we're building is a 28-day breakthrough, so our members all get 28 days. Then we'll build like a detox plan so that our members can go and do a detox if they want to. And we have in-club challenges. We have our Get Foxy challenge and our Beachbody Boost, and they're challenges in club like boot campy things. So they'll be now online. So we'll build all of those for online as well as in the club. So what was the question?
So you had your idea of,
did it change?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it did. We changed from doing a program to building something that we could build programs with. So now we can build whatever we want. Just put in the content and change, whatever the content is, and have another program. So. And
the users, do you literally get people from the gym to early access, and do you like that?
Testing?
Yeah.
Yeah, at the moment we've got our accountants firm, we've got about 400 female staff, so they're testing it at the moment.
Oh, that's cool.
Doing some beta testing for us, so yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll take that one last question here. Yeah.
Thanks again. It was interesting you mentioned that you didn't want to expand the physical business overseas, but purely the online business. Is there a reason that you don't want to expand the physical gym business itself overseas?
But I don't want to expand the gym business.
Well, you mentioned that online. You mentioned.
I just think we will still be expanding our gym business, but it's an awful lot. You can reach a lot more people online, and it's a lot easier than spending almost $1 million on a gym, setting it all up and having to pay rent and everything. And so to me, it's the way of the future.
So do you see the gym business as an international expansion? Do you see that still down the path for you?
Another path, yeah, probably.
Expanding the gym business internationally?
Yeah, I think so.
Will there ever be a time where it's just going to be digital and the gyms will go?
I don't know. I think it's good to have the gyms there because people like to go to them, and you need to have that social.
I'll forget it. We'll take one more. Step in.
Hi, so my name is Stephanie, and it's really amazing to see the female entrepreneur at startup ranks, especially in the tech space, which is largely, and the entrepreneur space, which is largely male. But my question is, if you could give 3 pieces of essential advice to today's female entrepreneurs, what would they be?
Okay. 3 pieces of advice for entrepreneurs.
Personal experience.
Yeah, okay. Have courage and confidence, I think. Believe in yourself. That's probably the number one thing that, when you're starting up a business and you've got all these sort of threats, things around you, you start to get the self-doubts, thinking, have I done the right thing? I don't know whether this is right. Everybody gives you advice, telling you should do something else, trust yourself and have confidence in yourself and courage. Take advice, but don't necessarily follow every bit of advice that you get because they don't know, probably, they may not be right. look after your people if you've got people that work for you, because without them you're nobody, and you know, you're only as good as the people around you. And so, yeah, make sure that there's a good, happy environment for your people to work in. And the third one would be make every penny precious, because you know, cash is vital. If you can have a really successful business, you can have even a profitable business, but if you haven't got that cash managed properly, it can be a disaster.
That's brilliant. That's a perfect one. And I want everyone back on their feet. Just start up front and say a big thank you for Diana.